what's happening right now is a ripple effect. Innocent black men are being killed. Therefore, we are having to have protests. If they didn't kill those men last week, there would have been no protests in Dallas. Therefore, those police officers wouldn't have been shot. It's coming full circle. It is a ripple effect, what is happening. And I cannot say that, I can't say that I'm surprised. I'm not surprised as to those officers getting killed. It was only a matter of time. I feel horrible that children are without their mothers and fathers. Husbands are without their wives. Wives are without their husbands. I feel horrible for that. But my question to the police officers are, how does it feel to be hunted? Black men have been hunted since the beginning of the century. Now you are being hunted. And you don't like it. You don't feel safe. You are living in fear. Welcome to our lives.
Black Lives Matter. Facts don't matter. Right now, the narrative that is being set is that the system is inherently racist, white privilege, yada, 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 and when cops see any young black man, they go into Lloyd Christmas mode. To the point where places like Black Lives Matter, leftist websites, even MTV News are pushing this idea that innocent black men are being shot for no reason at all. Now, the purpose of this video is not to justify nor condemn any of the deaths that occur during these police-civilian interactions, but to provide you with the context that MTV News and Vox and HuffPo refuses to. Facts don't matter. Let's just use this video from MTV News that's being circulated to start. All right, the situation with Philando, we don't really know a whole bunch yet. That didn't stop MTV News from putting it in a video, and it seems to be a really horrific accident, and hopefully justice will be served when the information comes out, but we do know that he wasn't shot for broken taillights. He was shot during an altercation where he was pulled over because he matched a description for a suspect in an armed robbery. Police were on high alert for a gun. Police get shot in routine traffic stops all the time. Statistically, yeah, it happens a lot at the hands of young black men, and there was a miscommunication with Philando reaching for what he claims to be his wallet or ID, and the cop thought was a gun. Now, that doesn't mean that any of this is justified or it's a good situation, but to simplify it to shot for broken taillight is deliberately misleading. Clearly, Alton Sterling wasn't shot for selling CDs. He was shot because someone called in a report that he was threatening a homeless man with a gun. He was tased first, and he continued to resist arrest, and he had a firearm on him, which I'm guessing was illegal because this guy had a rap sheet a mile long, including being a registered sex offender and having done time in prison for violent crimes. This wasn't a routine pat-down. This was an altercation with a longtime felon who didn't want to go back to the slammer. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Was he arrested and shot for selling CDs? No. Only Mr. Clark was not shot for attending a birthday party. He was shot for preventing paramedics from assisting with an assault victim. He wasn't handcuffed. He refused to show his hands. And there is DNA evidence showing that he reached for a cop's gun. He wasn't there to play balloon tricks. Almost forgot. Little tidbits. The assault victim that he was interfering with the police trying to help, it was his girlfriend. Yeah, he was the one who assaulted her. What a gem. But by all means, please continue with the narrative that cops are simply out there hunting down young black men because they're attending birthday parties and selling CDs. I hate you. What they don't tell you is Walter Scott tried to grab an officer's stun gun, and he did run away from the police because he didn't want to pay child support. That being said, the cop acted poorly, but no justice, no peace. Wait, there's justice. He's being charged with murder. The system worked. Okay, Michael Brown was not shot for stolen cigarillos. What happened at that convenience store was a robbery, not shoplifting. There was use of violent force. He was identified as a suspect in that robbery. He reached for an officer's gun. But hands up, don't shoot! His hands weren't up. He was punching a cop in the face and reaching for his gun. When that happens, sometimes officers are trained to shoot. Are there several points where this didn't have to escalate? Of course, but the idea that a racist cop picked off some gentle giant in Michael Brown is entirely inaccurate, as the rest of these examples. Sandra Bland, traffic violation. To the untrained, uneducated eye, that looks terrible. She was murdered for a traffic violation? No, she was detained, and she killed herself. A lot of people want to say it's a conspiracy. No. Third-party autopsy results revealed that, were consistent with that, and there was marijuana in her system. No, I'm not saying that all people smoking joints should go kill themselves. Just, if you're watching this, go get a snack. Again, he wasn't killed because his car broke down. This was a horrible situation with a cop who, by the way, was fired after. It's important to note that he was fired for not doing his job well. He thought a car was abandoned. It was 3:15 a.m., dark outside. Mr. Jones was there, and he did have a legal firearm, but you're a cop. You're looking into what you think is an abandoned car in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden, you're confronted with an armed subject. So the cop was fired, and it seems rightfully so, but try and think about this situation. He didn't go into it shooting a guy because he was black. He probably went into it a little bit nervous in a bad area of town at a dark time of the night, and he had stories in the back of his head from all of his friends in the force who had died, who made a wrong decision, guy pulls out a gun, they're dead, and someone has to go explain to their wife and kids why daddy's never coming home again. Again, he was fired, but let's try and see this as more than car broke down, he was shot because he was black. Freddie Gray was not killed for carrying a switchblade. Okay, first off, he fled the police unprovoked. He saw the cops, they looked at him, boom, the kid bolted, and he happened to have a switchblade on him. Again, not justifying all of the actions, but half of the cops who arrested him were black, and he was brought up on weapons charges in an area that is notorious for high crime. Freddie Gray had something like 20 criminal cases against him, 5 open at the time of arrest. By the way, when he was high as a kite on opioids, and I think it was pot in his system. Now that matters because the argument is that he was killed in a rough ride in a cop car, by the way, with half the cops who were black, and he died 7 days later in a trauma ward. But the fact that there was a struggle and he was high as a kite can certainly lead to one being more likely to be injured, especially considering that a judge let the driver go. Does it mean that mistakes weren't made? No. Does it mean that this death was warranted? No. But he wasn't shot for having a switchblade. Sean Bell for leaving a bachelor party. Well, he was just enjoying his night. Except what actually happened is he left the club being patrolled by undercover cops. He made a run at the cops when they identified themselves openly as cops, and the members of his entourage were known felons. Dang, most bachelor parties just have male firefighter strippers. Female. Oscar Grant. I didn't finish Fruitvale Station because I found it incredibly boring. It appears that this is a case of a cop not doing his job well. For that, he was fired. So, I'll give you this one, MTV News. Except Tamir Rice wasn't killed for a super soaker in the park. He was aiming a firearm replica with the orange tip removed at people in the park. His age was not determinable at the time, as you can see by this video, and officers weren't informed that the gun might have been fake. Is it a horrible, unfortunate situation? Yes, but they didn't say, hey, you know what would be fun today? If we go kill a black kid for Nerf. Ramarley Graham. Again, this is an even more complicated situation. The cops, a narc unit, followed him after they thought that they had spotted a gun in his waistband, and they had some reason to believe that he had just participated in a drug deal. Well, it turns out they may have had some reason because he ran from the cops when they identified themselves, and he tried to flush a bag of weed down a toilet. He ended up being shot when he didn't have his hands up, and allegedly he reached for something in his waistband. Now, the cops didn't have a warrant to be in his apartment, so guess what? I have a problem with those cops and they should be fired. Again, was this guy shot solely because he was black, or is this an example of a situation that escalated and requires context for people to understand? No. He wasn't killed for walking around with a knife at all. He was a gang member, a currently active gang member. They found him after a report from a stabbing victim at large, still holding the knife. He continued to hold the knife and refused to put down the knife, even after being pepper sprayed and shot with a beanbag gun. And then he started walking toward the cops with the knife, as you can see in this video. So yes, they put 20 rounds in him. A lot of people don't know this. Knives are incredibly dangerous, much more dangerous than guns at distances less than 21 feet. We'll have the references up at louderwithcrowder.com. People get hurt all the time. Officers get maimed all the time by knives. So in this situation, the officers have a decision to make. Eliminate the threat, who is a currently active gang member who may or may not have stabbed someone else, who refuses to drop the knife and is coming toward you, or risk serious bodily harm by an active knife wielder in an attempt to be more politically correct. Instead, they opted to eliminate the threat so they could go home to their families. What choice would you make? See previous example. Katherine Johnson. Here's one that I agree with. Isn't that great that we can create a video that's actually truthful to encourage a dialogue of honest discussion? To the best of my knowledge, according to my research and Not Gay Jared's research, the cops were acting unbelievably outside of the law. They may have planted evidence. It seems like there was some shady stuff going on with falsified reports, but here's the beauty. The cops went to prison, as they should. Would it have been better that a 92-year-old didn't get killed in a botched drug raid? Of course, but the cops are in prison. John Crawford III, this is the famous Walmart Beaver Creek guy with the toy BB gun. Do we have video on this?
Yep.
Okay, let's bring that up. So some shoppers mistook it for a real gun. There are some reports that he refused to comply with officers, but look at this. This is nowhere near the hunting section, and he's using the gun to select his Fruit Loops. This is wildly erratic behavior. I think this is an unfortunate situation. He really shouldn't have been shot, and the cops should probably be punished. But he wasn't just shot because he picked up a BB gun at the Walmart toys section. They said, there's a black guy, let's shoot him, we have an excuse. Kenneth Chamberlain, an example of cops being crappy. By the way, white people encounter crappy cops too. A medical device called the police to his home. It seems like he refused to open the door. He had a blood alcohol, at which point he was legally drunk. And it's just a crappy situation all around. Seems like bad cops. Can we find some common ground? Can we have a truthful discussion here? Eric Garner. Go back to my previous podcasts. I always maintained that the cops were unnecessarily rough with Eric Garner. But he was resisting arrests. He was big. They didn't kill him. The guy had a heart attack because he was so overweight. Still, the cop should be prosecuted. That cop that was raking his face into the sidewalk, I have a problem with him. That's an abuse of authority. Can we find some common ground, or do you still have to lie about everyone else? India Patey, holding a fake gun. That's not what happened. It was 1:20 a.m. It was dark. Cops were investigating an unrelated case. They saw her getting into an argument with an unarmed person, and she threatened him with the gun. She then refused to comply with police officers and was shot as a result. Unfortunate, yes. An example of clear-cut racism? No, of course not. Well, nude and erratic is a very vague term, but the cop was black here, so yeah. Trayvon Martin for wearing a hoodie. Oh, thank you, Geraldo Rivera, for your misspeak, making this a meme for all time. No, he wasn't killed for wearing a hoodie. George Zimmerman, I've said it. He's a jackass. Not a fan. He should have stood down. He didn't have to follow this kid. But when that situation escalates to the point where the kid is bashing your head into the concrete, here's the deal. Whenever you assault somebody that violently, you're forfeiting your right to live. People don't like to hear that, but here's the deal. If someone holds me at knife point or gun point or assaults me in the street or sucker punches me, you don't know what the intent is of that person. You don't know if they're simply trying to impress their friends or if it's some form of gang initiation or if they're a crazy person dead set on killing you. You don't know if they want your watch or they want your life. The second you escalate it to a point that is violent enough that could kill somebody, whether it's your intent or not, you forfeit your right to live. And that's what happened here. Tragic, yes, but this is not out of the ordinary. Again, the point of this video is not to justify all of the killings, nor is it to condemn all of the killings. I think if we're being honest, I've been fair and pretty reasonable. If you don't think so, let me know below. The point is that when it's Black Lives Matter, or MTV News, or HuffPo, or whatever the organization is that day, when they put out there this idea that cops in record numbers are simply killing black people because of a level of melanin in their skin for benign activities and no reason at all, what does that do? Well, it makes it okay to vilify cops. It makes it okay to dehumanize cops. And it makes it okay to treat them subhumanely. Because think about this for a second. If you genuinely believe, as many of the cop killers out there right now do, that officers are killing people for simple things like selling CDs, for going to a birthday party, well, of course you could justify it as your duty to kill police officers. And people have. My point is that if you are not honest, if you are simply using a false narrative to try and generate clicks, you then allow somebody to aim their latest outrage cannon at whoever subject you deem to be suitable. In this case, lately, unfortunately, it's been a lot of innocent police officers. Right before the Dallas shootings, if you watch this channel, I said, hey, if it gets to the point where it's more controversial to say wait for the facts than it is to demand the public lynching of officers, we have a problem. That video was released right before the Dallas shootings. I am telling you this right now. If we do not start having an honest conversation about what is going on, you are going to create an atmosphere that you can't take back and you will regret. That's the only purpose to this video. Hope it's been of use to you. Next one will have more immature wiener jokes. Hey, if you like this video, subscribe by clicking my face or go to louderwithcrowder.com for sources and references to all of the statements made on this video. Send me angry emails. I'll accept them. Or you can click one of these videos next to me. One's playing in a one of them is a mystery box. Oh, what's that? This is the internet. Could be anything. Could be something fantastic. Could be something you've never seen before. Could scar you for life. Roll the dice.